The question is, what's going to connect these tables together? Once you separate them out into customers and sales reps, you're essentially splitting the table right down the middle here at amount paid, right? All the information to the right is going to be in the sales rep table. All the information on the left is going to be in the customer table. But my question to you is there something in this entire section that should exist in both tables? And the reason we want it to exist in both tables is so that it connects those tables, right? If you think about like when you place an Amazon order, right? It doesn't just have the orders over here in this table and your information as the customer over here in this table. It has to connect them so that it knows that this order has occurred for this person. So the same kind of thing works here, right? We want to make sure that the sales rep who made the sale to a specific customer gets that credit for that customer, right? So we want to make sure that the sales reps are getting credit for those different customers, and we need to connect those somehow. The question is, what in this would you connect, right? What would you connect across? You've got customers working with sales reps. So obviously you're connecting those two pieces. And if we think about how we're going to uniquely identify those, that's a whole nother question, right? How are you going to be uniquely identifying each set? How are you going to uniquely identify customers? How are you going to uniquely identify sales reps? And that's a whole nother question, but we'll get to that in the future. The question is here, how would you connect them? You could put all of the customer names inside the sales rep table. But I want you to think about what your sales rep table is going to look like in the end. Is it going to look like this? Is it going to have all of these rows? It should not have all these rows. If you think about it, we're only going to have Pat Jones once, right? We're not going to list that person multiple times in multiple rows because that's repetitive data that we don't need. And in the sales rep table, you only need to have that person once. So if we had Pat Jones in the sales rep table and then we brought the customer name from over in this table over to the sales rep table, we'd have to list Amy's store, we'd have to list Delia's Designs, Environmentally Casual, Nancy's Place, and Tan and Tone. And we'd have to put all of those in the same row of information as Pat Jones. That doesn't really work. I mean, you're trying to list multiple customers inside the same row. Okay, because that's a record. In this case, what we want to do is we want to go the opposite direction. We want to take the sales rep number right here, and we want to include that in the customer table, in addition to being included in the sales rep table. Because then we could say sales rep number 44 is going to be associated with Amy's store, Environmentally Casual, Delia's Designs, Nancy's Place, and Tan and Tone. And we can do that in every single row in the customer table. And then the 44 will connect from the customer table over to the sales rep table saying 44 is Pat Jones at 43 3rd Oxford, Tennessee, and the base pay is $13,000 and their commission rate is 0.05. So when you're looking at two separate tables or you're looking at a bunch of data and you're talking about separating into tables, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tables, you need to think about how am I going to connect them? Because if they're completely separated right down the middle right here, there is nothing connecting them. There's nothing making sure that these sales reps get the credit for these customers. And they get a credit because they have a commission rate that they're earning off of every sale that they make with every customer. So we need to connect them, right? So in Access, when you're connecting tables, there will be a field, one of these columns that will appear in both tables. And that will then allow you to connect those tables so that Access can say, okay, I see sales rep 44 over here in the customer table, and that links up with sales rep 44 over here in the sales rep table. And actually what's even cool about it is that Access will check your data. So if you try and put a sales rep into the customer table that doesn't exist, like 67, it won't allow you to because it doesn't exist over here in the sales rep table, so we don't know who that person is. So it's really cool because not only are we taking out repetitive data, but we're talking about actually making sure that there's some checks and balances. So if somebody makes a human error, like putting in 67 as the sales rep, it won't allow it because that person doesn't exist.